Welcome to the Royal Caribbean Blog Podcast, where we can look into the world of Royal Caribbean cruising. I'm your host, Matt Hochberger, and this is episode number 562. Norwegian Cruise Line just launched a brand new ship, the NCL Aqua, but I honestly have no clue how this fits into the big cruise ship market. Does it at all? So this week, I have Sheri from Cruise Tips TV joining me to talk about what the ship is all about and share some great tips on packing and planning for a cruise because she's the expert in it. Here we go. When I plan any Royal Caribbean cruise, especially when I'm going outside of my comfort zone, which is essentially anywhere outside of the state of Florida, I'm usually looking for tips and tricks on how to make my cruise better. And there are certain places I usually go to first to find that information. And one of them is Cruise Tips TV, because I know for a fact there's going to be some really good information there. Sheri Griffiths is the creator of Cruise Tips TV. I've known Sheri for many years. She has fundamentally shaped my knowledge of how I plan my cruise. I would say overseas. Alaska, I don't think is technically overseas, but for outside of the Eastern time zone, she has been my go-to guide for this. She is a wonderful person with great personality, a wealth of information, and she enjoys a drink as much as I do. And I'm pleased to welcome Sheri back to the podcast. Sheri, welcome back to the Royal Caribbean Blog Podcast.
Wow. Thank you, Matt, so much. I appreciate that. And yes, I do. I do enjoy a drink just as much as you do. I love it. Yeah. I'm excited to talk about this today. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. How long have you been doing Cruise Tips TV? I was just wondering that before we started recording.
Yeah. We're coming up on 12 years here. We started in 2013. I think.
Dang.
Yeah. I know it's been a while. Jeepers. Yeah. Time flies.
Why did you do it?
We did it because we felt like we had some knowledge to share, and we kind of started off with a goofy packing video. We thought, constantly going on cruises as a family, and we just have something to say. And my husband's like, "What about YouTube?" And I was like, "What's YouTube?" I didn't even know at the time. I had no clue that you could make videos and share them with people. And so we started off making packing tips videos, and over the years, we started doing a little bit more educational and kind of interactive stuff too, vlogs and things to help people to become more prepared, and lots of destination and port stuff too.
Yeah, in the early days of YouTube, I was just producing YouTube videos and they were terrible because I was still editing them myself, and you can always tell which ones those were. And when I started catching your videos, especially your lives, I thought you always did a great job with that, with your interactivity. And I often say I try to produce videos or content that I would want to consume. Like, it's not about necessarily what is the market says should be what you do. Like, I want to create something that I would want to enjoy. And I've always enjoyed your content. I mean, you've branched out into so many other things, but I remember your YouTube videos especially were like, that was like must-watch TV, especially Vlogtober, which is when you did back in the day, it was like literally a new video every day, right?
Yeah, exactly. We did this thing called Vlogtoberfest, where for the whole month of October, we put out a new video or do a live stream every single day. I think I'm a little too old for that now, but we do like a modified version of it that we can handle. But it is so fun. And there's always something to talk about with cruising, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even though I feel like sometimes I run out of things to say about cruising, you think, oh, I've talked about that. Really, there's always a topic. There's always something that people need help with. And there's always new people coming in who need a little bit of help. So it is a lot of fun to share the knowledge, and we like to kind of focus on keeping it positive too, helping people to go into it with the right type of attitude. It's always helpful.
It's very tough. I mean, I said this at the beginning when I went to Alaska the first time. I mean, it is, I would say overwhelming is probably the best way I could describe it, because you just don't know what to expect, how to pack, what you need. And inevitably your mind just ends up racing, and you're like, I got to bring like, a gargantuan amount of stuff. And you do need to bring other things than you would for a Caribbean cruise, but it's not nearly as crazy as you might think. And I got to tell you, your content certainly helped me understand and better prepare for that, and Europe as well. I mean, just having that, the sort of stuff that you provide to your audience, I think is fantastic. What are the kind of things that your audience typically is looking for when they're trying to plan a cruise, regardless of where the destination is?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get those cruise questions answered, but typically they're looking for packing information. That's a big one for us. We do a lot of packing content. I think they also like to see what the experience was like to some degree, whether it's kind of a review or a vlog style video. They want to kind of picture themselves on that trip. But they also, I think they like to see the entire ship in detail and the entire stateroom in detail. So we try to show, entire cabin tours and ship tours and things like that too. But they want those cruise questions answered. And sometimes you can get those answered quickly by maybe doing a quick Google search. But other times when you're looking for something that's a little bit more vague or nebulous, like what's the vibe like on, Carnival Celebration? You want to watch videos where people were on the ship and you can see yourself in that travel moment, right?
Heck yeah.
So, yeah, yeah.
Well, we brought you on board today to talk primarily about NCL Aqua. But it's interesting because Norwegian is an interesting cruise line to me. It seems like, again, this is from the outside looking in, so I'm not like, as much as I know about Royal Caribbean, that's as little as I know about NCL. But Norwegian kind of had, I don't want to call it a step back, but they tried to pivot a little bit a couple of years ago with some of their ships by not going as big. I remember there was a famous earnings call with Frank Del Rio, and he was basically defending, not building enormous giant ships like Royal Caribbean and Carnival were doing. And it seems like they've kind of are like, okay, maybe we should have gone a little bit bigger in retrospect there.
Mhm.
So tell me, where does Aqua fit into the market right now?
Yeah, it's interesting because you're right. It isn't the biggest cruise ship out there, but I think what happened with their Prima class of ships is they learned that they did maybe go a little too small with some of the venues, especially those more popular venues. So they tried to course correct that a little bit with Norwegian Aqua. So it's not a massive mega ship. It holds about, gosh, I want to say it's around 3,500 people, about 156,000 gross tons, I believe. But they fixed a lot of the issues that they had, and they added space to some areas where people were, they were being honest and they were like, look, this just isn't working. So a lot of what they changed was around flow, right? But they extended the ship. They put in two 11-meter blocks, which is basically like, it's about, I want to say it's something like close to 70 feet longer. And they relocated some stuff. So where the retail just wasn't working and the entertainment venues were kind of weird, they opened everything up a little bit more and they made it more intuitive for people to kind of get around. And I feel like they nailed it with Aqua. And I haven't actually sailed on Prima and Viva, so I don't know what that was like. But everyone that I talked to on these inaugurals who had been on the other ships, the second they walked on board, they could feel the additional space. So I think they finally got it right. And they're probably going to go in the same direction with Luna. I don't think that it's going to be a whole lot different. But you got a way bigger pool deck, which people always want. They're always going to complain if the pool deck is too small. And there's no go-kart track on Aqua where there were on the older ships. Instead, they have that Aqua slide coaster. But the pool deck is much bigger. It's more expanded. The pool itself is bigger. And then their upcharge adult only area that's also sort of a poolside and loungy area, Vibe Beach Club, is also bigger. And they just have more hot tubs all around. So I feel like they listened and they got it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like the vibe that I've been getting, or the consensus a lot of people have been saying, is that it's like, if you think a ship like Icon of the Seas or even Carnival's Excel class ships are, you want a big ship, but you don't want like super, super big. Like this is where Aqua and Luna kind of fit in. Is that appropriate to say? Do you think that's a fair
Yeah,
assessment?
I think that's fair.
Who do you,
Totally.
who do you recommend like Aqua to? I mean, would you recommend Aqua to me, like in my family, or is
Yeah,
it
I
where
would.
does it fit?
I feel like it fits really well with two different types of people. Number one, it's great, honestly, for couples looking for a slightly more premium, like a almost like a mass market slash premium experience.
Yeah.
But then there's this really interesting niche spot that I didn't think about until I actually cruised on the ship, and it is families with teens and tweens
Hmm.
because you have so many attractions where the kids actually have to be about 48 inches high to ride or do or whatever. So maybe for littler kids, they're going to have a little less. They do have a splash area, but I feel like it hits this amazing spot for teens and tweens. And I took my son on the 3-day christening cruise out of Miami, and we ran around that ship trying to do everything. And even after 3 days of like full out fun, like playing every game of ping pong and golf, there was still more we felt like we could do. They have a killer arcade that that kids and teens will appreciate, but it's so big that adults will feel welcome there too because they have like a little mini bowling alley.
Hmm.
So you can also go and like sit in a booth and bowl and do some VR stuff and play classic stuff like Ms. Pac-Man. But those are the two key demographics I think that will do really well. And when I say couples, I think honestly, couples of all ages would do great. Like honeymooners probably love this ship. It has kind of romantic little nooks where you can hang out. You could get a Vibe Beach Club pass and have a lot of quiet and get away from kids if you wanted to. But then a retiree would probably have just as much fun.
You-
Also, foodies do really well on Norwegian. They do a great job, especially with the specialty.
hmm.
The food is really high quality.
I went on one NCL cruise back in 2012. It was out of New York, and it was either the Star or the Gem. I know it had like a lot of like jewels on the
Yeah.
whole design. And
Yep.
I got that was like my cruise where I was like, maybe I just like cruising. And I went on that ship and I was like, nope, I just like Royal Caribbean. And that was I mean, it
Yeah, it
had things
wasn't
I
for you.
liked. Things I liked about it, the fact that they had like the pub and there was like I think popcorn there. I don't know if they still do that. That was nice.
Mhm.
The specialty restaurants were great, but I remember the dining room was just awful. Like I just did not I thought the food quality was really bad. In the complimentary, the main dining room. I know that they do the freestyle dining, clearly not
Mhm.
my thing. But
Yeah.
obviously there's a lot changed since 2012 on that class of
Yes.
ships versus Aqua. I was gonna
Mhm.
ask you, you mentioned you were on the three nighter on Aqua. Do you prefer like what would you rather do? A brand new ship you've never been on, like Aqua, like this, or would you rather go on a ship from that you've been on three or four times already from a I'll say this from a content creator standpoint.
Normally, I would tell you that I'm an unusual specimen and that I don't really gravitate towards new ships. I
Mhm.
usually don't like all the fanfare, the buzz, and the fact that there's like a million pieces of content going up at the same time. I'd rather go on something that I really enjoy with my family and make content about what I enjoyed rather than just capturing the buzz,
Yeah.
right? So for a family sailing, usually I'm going to gravitate towards something. I'll do a repeat over and over if I love it, or I'll just gravitate honestly towards an older and smaller ship. We really enjoy those older classes of ships where the staff is usually really comfortable, they're friendly. It feels just a little extra special. Maybe they have a little bit more space per passenger than some of the newer ships, and we don't feel as crowded too. But Aqua was a bit of an exception for me. I could have stayed on board for weeks and weeks and weeks and had an incredible time. I feel like for my family, it checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I mean, it's the tale of two cities, right? With new ships. Like it's great because there's new content and it's easy. It's like from a creative standpoint, it's easy to come up with the ideas, but man, I mean, it is the definition of work. And I know no one has any sympathy for
Yes.
us when we're complaining about going on a new ship, but it is a lot of running around. It's a lot of capture. Whereas I feel like when you go on a ship you've been on before, the cadence of it is so much more enjoyable. It does require, though, a lot more forethought into coming up with creative ideas for it.
Sure.
That's the downside to it. But I would much rather have that balance personally, than the
Yeah.
crazy running around stuff.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. And there's a time and a place for both. And the thing about these, the sailings where you're getting on a new ship is a lot of times if they give us an opportunity to go on and check it out, it's usually really short
Hmm.
and it's so hard to capture everything. And we have this total FOMO when we go on a cruise, right? Like I do not want to miss any venue. I don't want to miss any restaurant. I want to share every single thing with every person. And so I think you get more of like a frantic running around feeling and then you it's best if you can go back and just experience a full week of it in a regular way where you're not trying to film everything.
I mean, you cover a lot, right? You do packing videos, you do like personal vlogs, like I did this today type videos. You
Yeah.
do ship tours. What's the one thing that I don't want to say you hate because obviously you do it, but like what's the least favorite one to do? And I'll let you think about it for a second 'cause I'll throw myself under the bus here.
Yeah.
I certainly hate doing I cannot do the personalized vlogs like, hey guys, it's Matt. Here I am doing this and this and this. Like first of all, I hate turning the camera around on myself. I don't think I'm very photogenic to
Mhm.
begin, but also it's not my style. Like I prefer to talk over the video. It's not like I find that most of the things I do, like it's not that interesting. Like I took a nap today and that was all. And then I ate something. I took another
Yes.
nap. So that's not my favorite. Although there is sometimes telling a story. is powerful in that, especially when you're conveying an experience. But what's your thorny, you got to do it, but it hurts
Yeah.
a little bit.
Exactly. So we used to love vlogging, right, as a family. It was fun, but then it got to be not fun. So I'd have to agree with you that it got to be difficult, probably for different reasons than you. I didn't mind so much turning the camera around, but the problem was that when you start doing it day after day,
Yeah.
sometimes the story isn't very interesting.
Mm.
And so you feel like, okay, well, am I going to make a story today? Am I going to tell people that I took a nap and, did a puzzle? What do you do? So sometimes it's hard even to direct those things unless you're going on like a really cool cruise excursion or something. But the problem with vlogging and the reason that we stopped doing it was A, people stopped watching it as much as they used to, but B, you just can't rest ever. You feel
Yeah.
like you're constantly picking up the camera and thinking, and it creates this choppiness to your days. And I have left my day job, but before, when I was doing the day job and this at the same time, I started feeling like I never ever got a vacation. I never really got to rest, and the vlogging, even though I didn't realize it at the time, it was part of it. But now that we don't really vlog anymore, we do more like an after the cruise kind of review and wrap up where we go through everything we did and we share it all, but we kind of tie it up with a bow in like a 25-minute kind of review-ish style.
Hmm.
But now the ones that are the hardest, I would say that are the most time intensive and challenging is ship tours.
Yeah.
Because when you're on the ship, my husband does all the filming. He has to make sure, literally has to kind of make a list that says, okay, this is every single nook, cranny, venue, and space. And it's difficult to get those spaces without a bunch of people in them. And it's not that we don't want to show the people, it's that we don't want to, we don't want to violate someone's privacy. You don't want to be up in someone's face while they're at a bar or, in their swimsuit at the pool. So you try to get the venues a little empty, which means sometimes you're up at 5 a.m. when it's actually light outside, but there's no people, or you're running around on day one. And then when you get home, you literally have hours and hours of footage to sort through and lay on a timeline. So those videos will take us at least generally 2 weeks to edit. And that's just the editing. That's not the filming. So I think that those are the hardest, and they're kind of the most like, we love it and it's so worth it because we can share the whole ship, but it's really challenging.
Yeah, no, I trust me.
You do it.
I hate doing. I mean, I hate doing them in the sense that I love the finished product, and I love that I can look back on it. Like when we go on a ship, like we're going on Independence of the Seas in June, and I haven't been on Indy in a little while, so I watched our old ship tour of it, and you know what? It's fantastic, and I love it. And I laugh at my own jokes that I made 3 years ago. But during the time, you can ask Jen, our YouTube editor. I hate it. It's like it's just a lot. It's hard to talk about something for like an hour and just
Mhm.
and make it, because we don't like to have dead. If I sit there and just only chime in when I've got something interesting to say, you'll have a lot of dead air, and it's usually not that great. People want to
Yeah.
have information with it anyway. Um,
It's so funny. I've watched my own ship tours before too, where it's like, okay, it's been 5 years, but I filmed a ship tour back then.
yeah.
And I have literally watched it because I forgot where something is. It's super funny.
Yeah. Something though you've gotten into a lot is Amazon. I mean, some people lean into Amazon. You and Jeff Bezos must be hanging out on weekends, I'm guessing. But you do an amazing job of just taking every aspect of a cruise vacation, and it's really cruise QVC to me.
Yes.
Like because when I turn on QVC, I'm not interested in 98% of the stuff they have there, but it's really cool to be able to, see this, and it's like I didn't know I needed certain things till I see it kind of situation. And then you explain it. And that's really, I think, the power of it. How did you get into doing Amazon Lives?
Yeah, Amazon Live is a really weird thing. You so hit it on the head though. It is like QVC but on Amazon, where I go live and I talk about stuff that I'm using either in my kitchen or on my trips or like what I've packed or my clothes. So Amazon contacted me. We had done live streaming on YouTube, right? We'd
Hmm.
live streamed on YouTube every week. And I also had a successful Amazon storefront for years where Amazon said, okay, wait, you've got people who have these two talents. If you're a live streamer who also has a successful Amazon storefront, maybe you can do Amazon Live. So they invited us into a program where we got to do it frequently, and it's been so much fun. I mean, we actually started it off during the pandemic when cruising was gone. That's when Amazon contacted us, and I thought, oh my gosh, what a great time. Everyone's home, and at the time everyone was shopping more. They were buying like sweatpants and leisure outfits and things to cook at home with. And so we started off doing it during the pandemic. But I think the reason it resonates so well with me is because you know how they have that saying, like, if you pick a job you love, you never work a day in your life.
Yep.
Like, if you would have told me when I was a kid that I could combine my two favorite things, which when I was a kid, going shopping with my mom, buying new outfits, swimsuits, whatever, for a trip, and then going camping, going on vacation, those are my two favorite things. And so I think the reason I love Amazon Live so much is because I get to do my favorite things. I get to talk about the stuff I've purchased, and I get to talk about it as it relates to travel, and I get to shop. And so for me, it's just this very natural, organic, fun thing. And I'm passionate too about helping people. So if we can say, okay, this is the travel fan that's going to help you sleep at night because you might need a little white noise and you're boiling hot when you sleep. That's fun. It's really cool to have someone say a week later, thank you for that. It really worked. Or, that shirt was the perfect sail away party shirt. It's really rewarding.
I think you're absolutely right though about this whole, like, when you book a vacation. I cruise a lot, and it's amazing that we still have to go to the mall every cruise in order to buy stuff that we absolutely need for our trip. It is very much like we're going on a cruise. We need to get new clothes or new this or new that. I think it's a very natural feeling. Sometimes it's like true, like, like, oh gosh, I'm going to Alaska. I don't have, this type of clothing. Thus, we should go to the North Face store and get some things. But
Right.
even for Caribbean cruises, it's just like, you know what? This is the opportunity to get a new swimsuit. This is the opportunity to get new walking shoes or whatever the case may be. It seems like the people book a cruise and then at some point it hits them, whether it is 6 months before the cruise or a week before, they need to go do a little bit of shopping.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think for some people, the shopping feels like a necessity. Like
Yeah.
you said, I need a new pair of walking shoes. Maybe I need a swimsuit. But for other people, the shopping is its own entire category of pre-cruise fun and anticipation, where it's like, look, this is actually as joyful potentially for some people as the cruise. Just like making a spreadsheet might be. Some people enjoy like making a spreadsheet that outlines everything you're going to do, maybe the cost of their cruise. They love it. It's part of the anticipation. And it's so true. I love doing that too. I always like taking a few new things with me, whether it's like, something new to organize the stateroom with or a new wardrobe piece or like you said, shoes. It's just fun.
Yeah. Um, I mentioned Alaska just before, and I know that it's one of your favorite places to go is Alaska. Now, granted, you were living on the West Coast for a long time, so that,
Right.
helped a little bit in the same way that I go to Coco Key, like, on weekends. So it does help. However, it is an incredible place to go. And I know a lot of our listeners haven't necessarily been there yet. So why is Alaska such a must do? Because people just imagine, I don't want to go somewhere colder than I live for vacation. Something my mom always says, and I just want to like, oh,
Yes.
you need to try it.
Hmm.
What
Yeah,
is
because Alaska, like you always tell people, I know you tout this as well. Alaska's not as cold as you would think. It's the summer months that you're going up there, right?
Yep.
You can only cruise April through October, so it's not going to be snowing. We know this. Yeah, I think your coldest day on an Alaska cruise is probably just that glacier day when it could get down into maybe the 40s when you're near on a body of ice. But otherwise, it usually ranges like, 50 to 70 degrees. Some days you might even wear a pair of shorts. But I think the thing that's such a draw about it is that it's a different type of travel experience. It's absolutely nothing like a Caribbean cruise where it's all about the beach days and the island hopping. It's a tranquil, majestic experience where every time you step out onto the deck, like almost from the moment you leave Seattle, even when you're in the waterways near Seattle, you step outside and you're going to see something majestic and beautiful all around you. It's nothing like the Caribbean blue waters, but instead there's like these little islands that have trees coming up out of them. There's houses perched right on the shoreline. There's wildlife. And it's a different opportunity, whereas a Caribbean cruise might be more like fun, party, go, 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 get to the beach. This is an opportunity to kind of get closer to nature, but in a way where you don't have to get your feet dirty. You don't even really have to, you wouldn't even have to go on shore if you didn't want to. And you could see so much of a place that is so grand and that most people don't get to experience in their lifetime. And going to Alaska on a land trip isn't really convenient or easy. So doing it by cruise is just an awesome hack for seeing thousands of miles of coastline that are just totally remote and beautiful.
What's your favorite port to go to, or at least what would be the one you'd want to go to like tomorrow?
In Alaska,
Yeah.
um, I really like Juneau. If we're talking about one of the more common ports, I think
Hmm.
there's so much to do there, from helicopter excursions to just walking around the downtown and going to the Red Dog Saloon. Um, and maybe getting some crab. You could do like your own food walking tour. But there's so much to see. Getting out to the glacier is very easy to do. You can just take a bus and go to the glacier. You can go up on the mountain that's adjacent to
Hmm.
the cruise ship and just look down. But I kind of like the more off the beaten path ports. If you're lucky enough to go somewhere like Haines, even Sitka is a little bit less common. I really find that those offer some amazing adventures and some excursions that are pretty cool back into the backcountry or out into the water, into the channels there, that are just fantastic.
Haines is the only port I've been to in Alaska where I thought I'd actually want to live here because it's just so picturesque when you pull in there and all those houses on the hill. I mean,
Yes.
I don't know that we'd ever want to live in Alaska, but that is like it's just a beautiful setting that it seems like, okay, this is a cool place to live.
Isn't it cute? And it's so small. There's very
Yeah,
few people that live there.
absolutely.
So,
Let me ask you this. For Alaska, let's say hypothetically, you grew up in California, so one of your friends from high school that you drove around the Mazda Miata with your
ah.
with your blonde hair blowing in the wind, and she reaches out to you and says, "Sheri, I saw your video. Can't believe you're this amazing content creator, one of the best in the world. I want to go to Alaska. Which cruise should I go on? What would you recommend to Phoebe to go on?"
Ooh, well, Phoebes. I mean, if we're going back to Friends days, right? I feel like it's going to be different for everyone. If Phoebe had been on a cruise before and was like, let's just say Phoebe was an avid Royal Caribbean cruiser or an avid Norwegian cruiser, I'd actually say take that cruise line. So go on the cruise line you're experienced with, right? Otherwise, I think you'd have to go through kind of a little series of asking questions. Is this person, where are they in their life? Are they, young and have children? Are they retired and want to stay away from lots of kids? Do they have the budget maybe for a luxury cruise, or maybe can they splurge on like the Haven in the Norwegian product or something like that? And you'd kind of have to work through and see. But with all of that said, it is well known that Princess Cruises and Holland America really do an incredible job in Alaska, just in general. They have a lot of, especially Holland America, has an unbelievable amount of visits to Glacier Bay, which is an incredible experience if you can arrange it. And they also have a smaller ship experience. So, you're not going to have rock climbing walls, water slides, any of that stuff on Holland America or even on Princess. But if you want more of a traditional Alaska experience, Princess and Holland America do it really well. Um, but I do think that Norwegian and Royal Caribbean and Carnival have also gotten pretty popular up there. So for someone who really wants the ships that they're accustomed to, like if Phoebe is like, look, I just really want to be on a bigger, newer Royal Caribbean ship, I would say, then do that. Don't deviate. Go with what you love, because you're still going to be seeing essentially the same stuff, doing the same excursions. It's just going to be the onboard experience. It's different.
You mentioned in talking about Norwegian, the Haven. One thing when people talk to me about MSC, like Matt, if you ever do MSC, you got to do Yacht Club. And in fact, they often make it seem like it's Yacht Club or don't do MSC to that extent. Is the
Right.
Haven like that, or is the Haven less must do? I mean, it's great. Don't get me. I understand
Yeah.
it's a fantastic
Oh,
experience, but like, is it like akin to that like Yacht Club or don't do it situation?
um, I just got to try the Haven for the first time for 3 days. And I was like, okay, wait, how am I ever going to go back to regular cruising? Which honestly, it's how I felt. It's how I felt about the yacht club too. I'm one of those people. And with MSC, I really do prefer to be in the yacht club. I hate saying it because it sounds so snooty, but it's such a good experience to do that ship within a ship thing. I would say that that Norwegian, it doesn't feel that way to me, where it's like it's Haven or nothing. But if I had the budget every time to sail in the Haven, I probably would book it every single time. The food is so good. I had heard people say this, and I'm like, what do you mean? How good could it be? I can't even put it into words. I mean, they offer surf and turf every single night in the dining room. The breakfast is like absolutely outstanding. Everything is made to order and like 10 out of 10 good, but also it's not weird foofy food in the Haven. You can get a brie burger that will change your life for lunch and just, go crazy over comfort food as much as you could over like steak and lobster. It's that good. But I also do enjoy the main ship experience a lot on Norwegian. Um, I think that there's so many different places on a Norwegian ship where you can go to kind of relax. Like I could get a Vibe Beach Club pass for a heck of a lot less than I could get a stateroom in the Haven, right? But yeah, it's so good, Matt. It's like the rooms are enormous, the service is wonderful, and it's also just really chill in there, quiet, very much like the MSC Yacht Club.
Nice.
Yacht Club has the same vibe. It's just it takes you down a notch and really lets you just unwind. You feel like you're on a little yacht, like you're in your own space, and it's beautiful.
Nice. Well, I think it behooves us to remind our viewers how to find you, because when I searched Google for Sheri Griffith, there's actually a Sheri Griffith river expedition in
Oh
Utah.
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's crazy that and she spells you don't spell your name necessarily the way that I would imagine Sheri is spelled in a lot of cases, not the way that Journey spells it.
Mhm.
So it's just even more surprising that it's the exact same spelling. So if they want to find your content, where should they go?
Yep, we're Cruise Tips TV, all one word everywhere. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, even a little bit of TikTok, even though I don't really hang out there much.
And don't forget Amazon.
Oh, well, yeah, Amazon.com/shop/Cruise Tips TV.
There you go. Thank you, Sheri.
Yeah, absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Boy, that went fast.
All right, friends, time to answer listener emails. This is part of the episode where I answer the emails you've sent me. We'll start with an email from Nicole. Hi, Matt. Just want to thank you for doing an episode comparing Royal Caribbean to MSC. We love Royal, but we're thinking about doing MSC because they have the super family suites that have 3 connecting rooms. I know Royal tries to be super family friendly, but it's really hard to find connecting rooms that work for our family. The cruise companies shouldn't let people book just one of the connecting rooms. They should have to book both together, and I'm not sure why they don't have 3 connecting rooms like MSC does. That's my soapbox rant on connecting rooms. Thanks for listening. Nicole, thanks for the email. And as somebody who, travels with family a lot, I understand your plight, because it's not so much that, I only have 2 kids, so obviously we can all fit 4 of us in one room, but I really, really, really don't want to do that. And it has, I don't want to sleep in the same room as them. They're just we need a little bit more privacy, but more importantly, you need more bathrooms. I don't know why this isn't more of a thing. The connecting rooms is a fantastic idea, and I always do scratch my head, who the heck is booking a connecting room and not booking the other side of it? It's one thing if it's 3 weeks before the cruise and you're trying to squeeze in one in, I get that. But when you're, a year out and someone has booked randomly a connecting balcony room, either they are completely oblivious to the reality of what the cabin they booked on, or they just were led astray. I mean, they could be a guarantee cabin, I suppose, and that's what Royal Caribbean assigned them, but I don't know. Again, I'm with you 100% on that one. When you want to have more than a, connecting cabin situation, you got to get creative with it. I actually wrote an article recently on RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com on Anthem of the Seas, and I suspect this is true of other Quantum class ships. There's a interesting nuance on certain decks where you have, it's not advertised as such, but there's a little private hallway off the main hallway that has a studio cabin, so an inside studio, a balcony cabin, and a junior suite, and they all share a common private hallway that you can close. The sign says, rooms, I'm making up numbers now, 230 to 232, and within there, you could really open up those common doors in between and go between all the rooms, which would be great for the junior suites for the parents. The studio is great for the grandparent, and the balcony is great for the kids, or you can rearrange however you see fit. But the point is that that's a creative way to get about it. Obviously, the suites are nice. The problem with suites is they don't always have, again, the bathroom situation. Icon of the Seas is a great example of this. I love Icon, but there's no 2-bedroom aqua theater suites on this ship, because obviously there's no aqua theater suites. And really, if you want to have 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, you've got to it's the Ultimate Family Suite or the Royal Loft Suite, I think, are the only 2 options. And those are the 2 most expensive cabins on the ship that cost $100,000 each for a week. I mean, it's nuts. So it is definitely a missing component, and I agree with you that Royal tries to play up the fact they play up the fact, and rightfully so, they have cabins for families, but they have cabins for families that are willing to stay together. Like when my kids were younger, when they were elementary school and younger, under the age of 8, sure, sharing a cabin wasn't the end of the world with them. Now as teenagers, absolutely not. It's always a disaster every time we try to do it. So I'm with you 100%. Next question is from Morgan Patton. Hi, Matt. My husband and I got married on April 5th and just got off our honeymoon cruise on Harmony. I just want to say thank you for all the content you create. It was my first cruise and his second. We went on a 3-night Monarch of the Seas cruise back in 2009. I love doing research and listening to your podcasts and videos, as well as content from Sheri from Cruise Up TV, Ilana from Lifewell Cruise, and Tony from Malia Loca, which I found after discovering you. All of your advice was so helpful. We had the most amazing time on this cruise. The entertainment, food, and activities were also good, and we absolutely loved Maya Chan and ended up booking another cruise for next May on Symphony. Only 391 days to go. We love cruising so much now and are very excited for the future. Thanks for all your information that you give to the cruising community. Morgan, I am so glad that you had an amazing first cruise on there. That's fantastic. It sounds like you definitely got bit by the cruising bug, which is a good thing, and I absolutely love it. That is wonderful stuff right there. Next, we have an email from Michael. Good afternoon, Matt. As a fellow Royal Caribbean fan and being loyal to Royal, I know you're the resident expert. Have our multiple 2025 cruises, 26 cruise, and early 27 cruise booked. We've decided that a Christmas cruise for 27 is next on our list. With that said, if any has an idea of when those itineraries are released for booking, it'll be you. Any idea when that season will be released? We're looking at the 2025, 2026 sailing to get an idea of what we might be doing, but obviously ships change, itineraries, etc. We're just trying to get the ball rolling and want to be all locked in and ready to go the day they open up, since it'll be a huge group going. Appreciate your help and all the amazing information you provide. Michael, thank you for the email. So the answer is Royal Caribbean typically has a cadence to when they release new sailings. So for December 27, now I don't think you mentioned where. I'm going to assume the Caribbean, but usually Royal Caribbean puts out new sailings twice a year. Once is in the fall between November and early December. Then they pause for a few weeks for the holidays, and they resume it in February through April. So if you're talking about the Caribbean, almost certainly you'll get it in the fall, around November, early November into early December, skipping Thanksgiving, where they'll start releasing 7-day Caribbean, Alaska, and Europe, right? And then in the spring, rather, when you get into February through April, they'll release 3-night Caribbean, longer sailings, Australia, things of that nature. So depending on where you want to go, Michael, that'll dictate it. But basically, the earliest will be in November, and of course, we'll post that information over at royalcaribbeanblog.com the second it is available. Next email is from Scott from Canada. Hi, Matt. Really appreciate everything you and your team do to keep us informed of all things Royal Caribbean. Shout out for any new listeners to highlight the Cruise Compass section on your website. It's an amazing resource for anybody to familiarize themselves with a similar itinerary before their upcoming cruise and build up the excitement before the setting sail. My question is about Royal Railway. Does the special restaurant offer lunch service, or is it open for dinner only, and they offer more than one seating per evening? For everything I've read, this is an extremely popular dining option that is hard to book due to limited availability. I wonder if Royal has considered meeting such high demand by offering more seating times to capitalize on this. You think this is in their intention to only offer a few select dining slots in order to keep the experience exclusive and keep the demand high, or is there another reason that would prevent them from offering as many dining slots in the day as possible to maximize profits from this venue? And here's a bonus question. What are your thoughts on the rumors of them trademarking the name Star Station? What are the chances we'll see Royal Railway on Star of the Seas? And if so, where's the most likely place for it to locate on an Icon class ship? These are all great questions, man. I love this. So, I think they definitely underestimated the demand for Royal Railway, I mean, they knew it was going to be popular. I think they were on to something initially, and they made a big deal about it, rightfully so. But obviously, it has continued to be a very, very hot item, hot ticket, really, really popular. This is the train restaurant on Utopia of the Seas, where it feels like you're dining in an old-style train. I think their intention, if they were to be here and we pump them full of truth serum, is they would say, we wanted to have the Royal Railway, the Western theme, be the dinner thing, and we would add another option. As an example, they've already added in a whiskey tasting, which I believe is during the daytime. I have it booked for September when I go on the Royal Caribbean President's Cruise on Utopia. So I think they want their master plan was to build out the portfolio, to have various shows. So it wasn't that they wanted to have the Western thing be like, being shown 17 times a day. They wanted to differentiate it. But in the meantime, they don't have that differentiating. Their shows aren't ready yet, and that's probably why. As to the trademark, it's a great question. I have been so wrong on trademarks. Like, I can't tell you how many trademarks I thought for sure was going to be X and it ended up being Y. I remember is it Perfect Day Mexico, or was it the Cozumel Beach Club? Royal Caribbean trademarked Treehouse Cabana, and it never crossed my mind that it would be for a beach destination. I for sure is for a cruise ship, and I had this I even had ChatGPT generate an AI generated image of what a treehouse cabana, I imagine this a traditional, not cabana, excuse me, a stateroom, like a suite with a cabana with a treehouse in it, and anyway, yeah, it's a great question. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I am all but certain that they will have another Royal Railway on Oasis 7 whenever that comes out. But as for the expansion to the Icon class, I mean, anything's possible. Let me say this. Not only am I a bad predictor, I have learned that Royal Caribbean, if they put their mind to it, they can absolutely do whatever they want to do in terms of making changes there. So it's just really a question of imagining where it could go, because that's a great question on an Icon class ship. There's not an obvious choice. I mean, the one obvious choice is Music Hall, because no one knows that place exists. I don't think it'll be Music Hall, because Music Hall is already on the deck plans. But it's buried down on deck 4 in the back by one of the elevators. I guarantee you, it's the last place you ever visit on Icon, because you don't know it exists and it's hard to get to, and there's no reason to go down there unless you accidentally exit the casino on the smoking side or take the elevator down too many decks and you're by the Royal Theater. It's in a weird spot. It's definitely one of those, we needed to have Music Hall. We weren't sure where to put it. This is the last place we had left, and there you go. Thank you, Scott from Canada, for the email. Thank you, everybody, for checking out this episode of the Royal Caribbean Blog Podcast. Of course, if I can answer your questions, you can always email me, Matt, M-A-T-T, at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, Matt at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. Until next time, I'm Matt. We'll talk again real soon.